Imagine a world where much of American industry happens not with big bangs and sirens but in low-key press conferences. A CEO in a crisp blue suit steps up to the microphone and says quietly, "It's time to go." No fanfare, no flags, no excuses. That's what happened when Jim Farley, the head of Ford Motor Company, rose one morning to his misfortune. There was a finality to his voice, almost a mournful note, like a door closing, the sound that symbolizes the heart of American industry. He didn't say it outright, but the message was as clear as freshly cut steel: Ford was gone. Leaving the country of its birth, discovering a connection to place, choosing to survive far from home. Why? Tariffs, politics, strategy, but in healthcare, it's more than that. It's the end of an era. Just before Farley made his announcement, Trump signed a new tariff package that quickly redrawn the U.S. border. It was his last gamble, an attempt to fulfill a campaign promise built on kitchen-table nationalism: bring jobs home. Instead, his decision prompted one of the country's largest employers to pack its bags. Ford didn't wait. They opened the wall erected before them and chose to leave before it was too late. How do you explain to a Detroit worker, an Ohio welder, or a Kentucky mechanic that the company their families have trusted for generations now sees more of a future overseas than on home soil? How do you justify letting the plant where their grandfathers spent their lives, where fathers built homes and bossy sons worked, be a ruin by next Christmas? Jim Farley's silence at that moment said more than any press release. For behind every number, every face, every high king, history was crumbling. But perhaps the most shocking thing is not the departure itself, but its symbolism. Ford is more than just a carmaker. It is American history on four wheels: desert dust, metropolitan boulevards, farm trucks, convertibles on coastal highways. It is the promise that hard work gets you ahead, literally. When Ford goes away, it will be more than just a change of address. It will be part of the Prince's myth being taken down, folded, boxed up, and shipped out to sea. So what happened to bring it to this point? Sure, tariffs play a role, but behind them lies something far more dangerous: a disconnect between political rhetoric and the reality of the global marketplace. Trump wanted to punish countries that he said were stealing American jobs. Instead, he imposed conditions under which a company like Ford could no longer compete. Steel became more expensive, and imported parts, without a fully assembled car, began to include cars made in American factories that had lost their competitive edge in the global marketplace. It was like running a marathon with weights on your legs. And when he had to choose between patriotism and survival, Ford chose life. The move exposed a problem that has been going on for years: an extreme degree of trust in American manufacturing models. The idea that the United States is the best place to make, innovate, and sell. The illusion that the world still revolves around Detroit. In leaving, Ford was not simply reacting to tariffs. She was opening up the corpse of the American industrial dream and saying loudly, it doesn't work anymore. And what's scary is that she was not the first to leave, but she may be the last to fail. The decision was not spontaneous. It was the result of erosion, the failure of agreements, the development of infrastructure investment, the discrepancies between the big words of politicians and the cold logic of the market. All of this resulted in a strategic move that will leave scars across the country, scars that neither speeches nor subsidies will heal. Ford announced that it would move its production lines to where trade agreements were favorable, bureaucracy was minimal, costs were lower, and regulations were stable. Most likely, to Mexico, Southeast Asia or Eastern Europe, where production is not a struggle, but a growth strategy. Where companies meet with plans, not threats. It was a surprise to the media, but not a reason to stop. Ford's actions responded with growth, a decision that promised to reduce costs and increase profits. For the market, this was a rational move. For American work, it was a blow to the back. When the interests of business and social welfare are at odds, who should start, the homeland or profit? This question is the heart of the crisis in which America finds itself. Ford is only a symptom of where the disease is deepening. This is a system that, defending itself from the world, isolated itself from it. This is a government that tried to keep the company at home with threats, but in the end kicked them out. This is a country dreaming of a revival of the 90s, while the rest of the world lives in the 2050s. The blow has gone through the entire chain: suppliers, transport companies, robotics, technical schools, entire districts whose economies depended on the hum of factory lines. Now they all need a new way. Ford's departure is the end of the illusion that American companies are first and foremost America, that the flag is not just a logo for them but a matter of the heart. Their decision has shown the opposite. Loyalty is no longer essential for shareholders, but for factories with profit charts. Has Ford betrayed America? No. It means that we have entered a new era, where borders no longer define a turning point. The word national does not keep giants on their home soil. Ford did not abandon the table, she simply stopped pretending, and that makes sense. This division will be closed. Thank you for the years of loyalty. In this city of Flat Rock, Michigan, where the main reason for getting up at 5 in the morning was the sound of cranes at the Ford plant, there is silence. The metallic clanking of the presses will cease, the smoke from the chimneys will no longer rise, and with it the dreams, or at least the certainty that there was still a place for them. The whole town lived around the plant: a sandwich shop for the night shift, a gas station where the workers gathered at dawn, Uncle Joe's workshop, who knew every Ford model like his own child, a technical school where they taught welding, electricians, mechanics, all with one goal: to get to the assembly line. But Flat Rock is just one name among hundreds. The same thing is happening in Louisville, in Dearborn, in small and medium-sized cities scattered across the states that were once called the Industrial Belt. Now it's a rusty belt, and rust eats away not only steel, it eats away hope. Ford is easy to imagine as a faceless corporation, but let's take a closer look. Here is Dennis, 43, 17 years on the assembly line. A single mother of a teenage father, she relied on the stability of a job to pay off a mortgage and buy her daughter her first car, a Ford, of course. Now she holds a letter with pictures in her hands. She doesn't know what to do: no job, no bills, no time. But here is Jose, a first-generation immigrant for whom Ford gave him a chance at a new life. He opened a Mexican restaurant 2 blocks from the plant and cooked lunches for the day shift. A simple burrito for $10 he used to make $150 a day, now he barely makes $40. Jose says the hardest part is not the loss of income, but the empty tables where the laughter and conversation of statutory but proud workers can once again be heard. These stories are not exceptions, they are the new reality. And it is not just the economy that is collapsing, but identity. Decades of work in manufacturing were more than just a problem. It was a connection to society, that is, Mondays, a justification for a trend, a chance to say with pride, I am creating something. When that goes away, it leaves an emptiness not only in the wallet but also in the soul. And what did the government do? It promised that tariffs would protect industry, that a company like Ford would turn out, that jobs would be created. But reality showed otherwise. The reduction in taxes on imported parts and components was too expensive to produce in the country. Ford calculated, looked at the map and decided that he was making a profit, not out of malice, not out of ingratitude, but because the mathematics of the market is blind to the flag over the plant. Thousands of families look at the closed gates and ask, how did the country that promised to protect us leave us so vulnerable? The answer may not be in parties, not in names, not in elections. It is in a system that no longer meets the needs of those who move society forward. In a system where nationalist slogans collide with the logic of global capital, where the pride of being an American breaks the cost of production in Vietnam. They don't wait for their problems to be solved, they solve them themselves. Do you think you know who runs the world? I'm talking about secrets, decisions, wars, global influence, things that no one dares to show. If you can think for yourself, this story is for you. Did you think it was just Ford? Many people think so, believing that this is the only case, that other automakers have stood firm, strengthening the tariff storm with patriotism and courage. But what seemed like an exception becomes the rule. If even Ford is gone, what will stop the rest? General Motors, Stellantis, Tesla, they are all watching. Each of the plants already has production plants in the US, we have tested production in Mexico, Asia, Eastern Europe. Ford broke the seal, showed that the cure is possible, profitable, and that the market accepts it. Remember the phrase, what's good for GM is good for America. Today, the head of GM may be thinking, what worked for Ford can work for us. This is the gap between the politics of slogans and the economics of algorithms. While the stands shout America first, the tables show profit first. Capital knows no homeland, it has one goal: profit. And here's the paradox: the harder the government tries to hold on to the company, the faster they run. It's like holding sand in cubes: the harder you squeeze, the more it slips away. Do you think this is temporary? Look at the map. Investments are being redistributed. Universities in India, Poland, South Korea are receiving funds that used to be at MIT, Stanford, Georgia Tech. Startups have identified places where electric cars, hydrogen, automation are used. Who will lead the auto industry in 20 years? Will it be us? While America argues about tariffs and loyalty, the world discusses solid-state batteries, artificial intelligence for autonomous cars, cars connected to the grid and variable power. These technologies require freedom, investment, speed, closed borders, rising costs, and US bureaucracy. All this is slowed down. When they leave, production and innovation leave. Factories of the 21st century are not only assembly, they are labs where materials, sensors, and algorithms are tested. By taking away production, Ford collects engineers, technicians, data, partnerships with universities, development contracts. And what remains? Memories of the past and a void that cannot be filled for years. Imagine, General Motors does the same. Stellantis follows, Toyota closes a plant in the southern US, Nissan transfers investments to Asia. Like dominoes, everything collapses. It is no longer about numbers, it is about what kind of country we want to be, producing or consuming, dreaming of a past that cannot be returned. And most troubling of all, we have no plan B. No party, no governor, no agency has come up with a reindustrialization strategy that can compete globally. Other countries love factories with infrastructure, incentives, sheer stress, stability. The US clings to fines and patriotic rhetoric. But business needs numbers, not anthems. Being an American company once meant more than geography. It was an identity, an honor. The Ford logo symbolized belonging. Bringing here was an act of trust in the system, the people, the future. But that trust wore thin until it became a liability. Patriotism became a risk, an anchor in a competitive sea. And when love of the flag collided with love of profit, which won? Ford's departure is a mutation of the prince of capitalism. The country, the former cradle of innovation, is becoming an expensive market. Production is leaving, engineers are migrating, developments are moving to Bangalore, Berlin, Buenos Aires, profits are offshore. The US remains a buyer and a pair. This is not just a reaction to tariffs, this is a tectonic shift. Ford shows, loyalty without return is suicide. In the new world, business feelings do not feed Excel. Trust between industry and the US government has also collapsed. Companies are hungry for profit, but they receive different incentives, sudden tariffs, flimsy laws. No one wants to work in a minefield. And when the ground trembles, castles will be built elsewhere. Since 2010, 35% of US industrial cities have been conquered by young people due to plant closures and changes in plans. This is the heart of America, not the glossy one, but the real one, getting up at 4 in the morning, believing in work. When Ford leaves, it's not just the economy that collapses, but faith as well. In its place is disorientation. Darren, 52, 30 years on the assembly line. Never late, took overtime, worked even when his wife was sick. Bought a house with the reward, raised a family. Now he's out of work. Jobs require technology, and all he can do is tighten bolts. I've been useful all my life, now I'm expensive, he says. This isn't just a loss of salary, it's the end of innovation. Meanwhile, Ford shares are up 11%. Analysts are praising, shareholders are rejoicing in Manhattan, London, Zurich, where the plant closure is not heating up. Profits are disclosed, the city is collapsing. Who does America work for? This is not evolution, this is a rift. Research shows 60% of cities have lost industry, face depression, and school dropouts. Men aged 35 to 60 are 35% more likely to fall into opioid addiction after losing their jobs. It's an epidemic. Is globalization inevitable? Or do we lack the courage to change the rules? No one is asking Ford to sacrifice profits, we are asking the country to protect people, not capital. Otherwise, only factories with Wi-Fi can solve this. There is time to rebuild, but we need to stop normalizing. This is not just a factory, it is a community, a culture, a memory of a country built with its own hands. The first response came from Beijing. The heads of Chinese media praise Ford's departure, the new era will outrage me, who builds bridges, not tariffs. This is an invitation. While the US is in shock, other countries are luring industry. Hungary is providing benefits, Vietnam is reorganizing its railways, Indonesia is building parks for electric vehicles. 47 countries have already launched incentives in response to US tariffs. It's a race, and America is lagging behind. India has opened the Mobility Valley, 50 square kilometers for the auto industry with universities, factories, startups. Investments, $7 billion. Ford is already there. Brazil is updating its energy and export policies. The world is changing without the US at the center. Europe is preparing industrial passports, the UAE, stability for business. Investors say the outcome is a trend. The world is rewriting the rules and the US is at the door. Ford left slowly, trust, imagination, and faith in the fact that the factories remained were carried away. Business and an echo of the question remained, where is everyone? But something new will grow from this land. Not a return, a rebirth. Those who can, do, and believe remain. If the system considers us an expendable blow, it is time to be radical. Our hope is irreconcilable, our determination is not to repeat the nightmare. If this story touched you, meet those who are ready to act. Write what you will not give up and what has already been built. Do not believe that you are too small to revive the country.